Hands is a hopeful, positive protest pop album based in 2019 to 2021. A worldwide global experience, I would say, has been one of the most unbelievable and one of the most unbelievable things that have ever happened to me in my life experience. And then on top of that, there's just been huge cultural shifts politically. It's a lot to take in just in that short space of time. The reason why I'm not sure that most people like to mark time, especially as an artist. I like to be timeless, but with this one, it's like, fuck it, man. I'm a folk based artist. I think I should be writing about what's happening between this time, so I'm just very much marking out the time, what I'm talking about, politically and socially. So it's and through the eyes of like a white gay female living in Europe. I would say that my queerness has influenced the album in so much that I'm deeply okay with who I am now. I can't be any more transparent. In my personal life, I'm in the best place I ever was. I just bought a house with my partner. And I'm so out that it's not possible to retract. At this point in my life, it's really nice. Just having been a queer artist for almost my whole career, there was just this blip at the start where I wasn't really out for myself for the first like 5 years or something. But for the last 10, my albums have been kind of incorporating queerness into normal everyday life, and that was my political statement, I guess. And nowadays I've moved far away from my queerness, and I've moved into a kind of a space where I can just, my queerness is not the main focus anymore. It's more about like humanitarian rights, really. Yeah, What's Wrong with Changing was written to mark my time on this earth. So the song begins in 2001 when I was 18 years old. And that was the first time when the Twin Towers came down, and I began to be politicized really as a person. I became interested in the rules of war and the lies and the racism that fuels it, that particular war. And so I went forward into my college years with this, figuring out who means what when, and who's lying for what sake and stuff like that. So I became cynical, politically cynical. And then that moves into me moving to London, and I recognized that living in London under imperial like proudness, and that the elites there in policy really dislike, really fucking hate poor people and people of color. So that was a kick in the face for me, and that kind of politicized me to write more and to do more for humanitarian rights. And then it moves into Ireland. I'm singing about how deeply proud I am about Ireland voting gay marriage into constitution as a public vote. That was like, because in my lifetime, I'm 40 this year. In my lifetime, I've experienced being so fucking scared to be gay that I would be sick on corners of the street and stuff like that in case somebody saw me. So in my short lifetime, to see Ireland move away from church and state, to separate the mentality of once being a vilified, disgusting human being to being absolutely treated for the normal person that I fucking am, it was groundbreaking. And it took a lot of death and abuse to get to that point. So I mark out that point to thank who I think was utterly vocal in a massive turning point in that change, was Panty Bliss. So I reference Panty Bliss, I name check her in the song to say, because I mean, what an iconic figure, a drag queen that changes the face of Ireland in 2015, and ever since then, I think we've had really a lot to be proud of. I also referenced separating church and state, and to repeal the eighth. These are huge tectonic shifts in what happened in the Irish mindset, and it all happened in the last 7 years. I mean, how can I not write about how important this time is? Of course, it sets me out. It makes me different, and some would say that it kind of puts too much of a time lapse over my music. But I think I'm a consistently moving person, and I think if I'm not marking time for how important it is, then what the fuck am I doing here? It's rare opportunities that you have an audience, and if you have an audience, I think you have to use it correctly. People are listening, people are reading into things, and people can tell what you're like, whether you want to hide it or not. So I think it's our duty as artists to reflect what's happening in the world right now. That's our duty. I think there's been unfortunate amount of trying to pander to an audience to try and sell records. So there's been a lot of shit pop music being written over the last 10 years because I think because since Napster, there's been like little commerce to be made in the music industry. So people have been trying to homogenize themselves to fit into a group and get on the radio, try and make some money, and all these little things just fucking, they trickle down, and they determine what kind of reasons why people end up sounding like everybody else and not rocking the boat or not writing anything politically. Whereas I couldn't give a fuck. I'm kind of on the fringes of mainstream. And I've been on mainstream one time in my life, and I couldn't handle it. So I'm very, very pleased to be on the fringes of mainstream, so that I can write the music that I want, say what I want, and speak as openly and honestly as I can. So I'm using my voice to say something about literally this is what's happening right now. How do we feel about this? And I want change, and I want positive change, and I want kindness. So that's where I'm coming from. The one that keeps coming up and giving me the feels is Dreamwriting. There's just I'm going to get a bit nerdy, but the song is about the feeling of looking out onto the street when everybody is asleep, and feeling like you're the only human alive right now. The whole world is dead. Do you ever have that feeling when you're the only person awake? And to me, that felt very similar to the insular privacy of beginning to create something. There's this bubbling magic, I guess. And I never went down the route of sitting down and looking at how I write something and trying to portray that through music and sound. And so I got pretty scientific with frequencies on that record, trying to bring out feelings in my stomach through frequencies and EQs and stuff like that. And I'd never done that before. So it was a deeply satisfying song, which goes into a kind of a healing place for me. I'm using frequential therapy actually in that song, which is something that I'm hopefully going more into, because I want to I want to work with kids, and I want to record music that's works with frequential therapy specifically for kids. And that song always makes me feel like a little healed kid, like I've healed the little kid inside me or something. So Dreamwriting, that's my favorite. Oh, can't fucking wait. It's like, oh, I've put together this rad band. We're all women on stage, and they're all very, very passionate. And um, all we want to do, all we're talking about is just going absolutely fucking crazy for 2.5 hours every night, you know, just like really pushing ourselves and our limits of what we can do musically, and just constantly everyday learning. And truly, I don't normally look forward to things because, you know, anything can happen. And especially with the pandemic, I'm expecting the concerts to be cancelled. So I'm like also trying not to get too fucking excited, but I'm really going to be so disappointed if these concerts are cancelled, because there's so much that I want to express. I can't fucking wait. I'm after picking sweaty hot venues where we can just scream our heads off and be together as one again, you know, because we've missed it. Yeah. So I'm a bit excited.